Did Sapphire drop the most beautiful white motherboard for AMD? Do let me know in the comments what's your favorite one, because this one right here is the Sapphire PURE X870A Wi-Fi 7. And apart from other white motherboards, or in general motherboards that I had up for review, this one has so much small details like lettering and all the Pure icons and logos and the X870 and similar stuff like that. Just those slight touches that actually make the board stand out. So today we're going to talk about the mentioned motherboard, and I'm going to pair it up with AMD Ryzen, this time a bit different, 99950X3D with Kingston Fury Renegade RGB DDR5 2x16 at 6400 MHz. Of course, adding the Gen 5 of their Kingston Fury Renegade 4 terabytes, and finally we have the graphic card, which is in some sense totally irrelevant, but we have the Palette RTX 5070 White OC. And all cooled down, well, basically cooled down, the CPU is cooled down with the Valkyrie V360 LCD, so you get some sort of a grasp of what we're going to talk about. But in general, we're going to talk about, well, the main star of the show, which is, of course, the motherboard. So, going with some details regarding the motherboard, you have the whole PCB in white, and that's outstanding because it really does look quite nice. I'm really digging the whole design, and compared to some other white boards, this one actually really does look appealing. Now it's equipped with Wi-Fi 7 and 5 gigabit Ethernet. We have 20 gigs of USB Type-C port and 3 M.2 slots. Regarding the VRM design, we have 16 plus 2 plus 1 topology, which includes Richtec RT3678B 8 plus 2 phase PWM controller, which is AMD SVA3 compatible. They're using 55 ampere alpha and omega semiconductor MOSFETs. We have polymer condensers at 270 microfarad in front of the MOSFETs and 560 microfarads behind. It supports maximum of 256 gigs, 4 times 64 gigs at maximum 8400 megahertz, of course in OC. And we have support for 7000, 8000, 9000 series desktop processors from AMD, which is of course AM5 socket X870 chipset, 4 DDR5 slots as I stated, dual channel mode, and supports AMD Expo. Then for the expansion slots, we have one PCIe 5.1 x 16, one PCIe 4.0 x 4, and one PCIe 3.0 x 1. For those 3 M.2 slots, one is Gen 5 and the other two are Gen 4. We're continuing, we have 4 SATA 6 gigabit ports. For the LAN, we have Realtek RTL8126 5 gigabit LAN controller, supports Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5. For the back panel connectors, we have one display port, one HDMI port, 2 USB 2.0, one USB 10 gigabit Type A, 4 USB 5G Type A, one USB 4 40 gigabit Type C, one RJ45 LAN port, 2 Wi-Fi antenna connectors, and 6 audio connectors, which are audio input, output, microphone in, center subwoofer output, side speaker output, and rear speaker output. It has standard ATX form, so that's quite normal. So we have M.2 PCIe 5.0 ready, DDR5 support, quite logical. Heatsink is quite robust, I do have to admit. Expo supported, PCI Express 5.0 supported as well, and quite nice VRM design, I do have to admit that. NVMe SSD write compatible as well, so that's good. Now, before we go into benchmarks and discuss some details, I just really want to say that, again, the visual aspect is quite cool because there is no RGB on the board. So if you want to go with a clean white build and deselect all the RGB, just have pure white design, just like, let's say, a blackout build, you want to go with a clean white build without any lights, you can definitely do with this board. I mean, you can always switch it off on any board, right? But in this sense, you can do that. Now, regarding that, I do have to say I do have some, well, I wouldn't say complaints, but they were not cheaping out. I would say they were saving on the budget to have this board in a certain price category. And that's definitely true, because the price is definitely right. It circles around 250 euros, and that's, I think, quite solid for the X870 motherboard. Now, in general, what I wanted to say is that you don't have a quick release for the graphic card, and you don't have a quick release on any of the M.2 slots. So for the graphic card, you do have to use that standard lever, which, okay, nothing drastical. But then when we go with the M.2, it's actually quite easier, much easier when you're placing or swapping M.2 SSDs, if that comes to a point in any certain scenario in your future builds. But you do need to use 2 screws. You do need to untie 2 screws for each M.2 slot just to access it. So is this a deal breaker for you? I don't know, just let me know in the comments. Now, moving forward, there is one more thing that I'm really digging, and that is the BIOS. Now, the BIOS interface is outstanding, and to be honest, it's actually quite refreshing, and you have literally access quite user-friendly, I do have to admit, because on the left side you have all the information regarding the menu and what to access, overclocking and adjusting, and then you have some easy access like Sapphire Boost, where it automatically overclocks and adjusts everything to some certain degree. Going forward, when you go into your operational system, and you need to install the Trix M software, which gives you an option to check out the status diagnostics, and of course to adjust the RGB. Now, at this point, since I haven't this build so much RGB, it didn't work at first, but then you have some options where you could install the latest version for the RGB controller. This is quite crucial, because in some scenarios it does not detect all the lights. Right here I have 79 LEDs, which is extreme, right? But in that scenario, I used a different controller, and I thought, okay, this might not work. But that controller picked up some of the LEDs, and then, just out of curiosity, I plugged only one RGB header, which is connecting the top fans and this LED strip, and guess what? It's synchronized properly. So if you go with extreme amount of LEDs, this might be a problem. But that's basically a problem on any motherboard. So yeah, that should be quite all right. Now, moving with the benchmarks, what we have right here is, and I'm going to compare a couple of boards, not too much, but in general you'll get the picture. We have AIDA 64 Extreme Edition System Stability Test, 75 degrees on the CPU, and the clock speed is 5045, which is actually the highest out of all these 4 boards that I tested. Now, going with AIDA 64 memory test, we have 78,032 megabytes read speed, then we have write at 83,247, copy 72,229, and latency 73.8. All of these 3 read, write, and copy are by 100th megabyte per second less, which is still solid, I would say, because it's not drastic drop. Then we go with AIDA 64 AES. We have 724,965 megabytes per second. It's somewhere in the mid, a lower mid, definitely, comparing to the other boards, which is still okay, because, well, honestly, we're aiming somewhere on the budget for the X board, but still, you know, it performs quite solid. Cinebench 10 runs on average, 74.1 degrees, which isn't in, I would say, somewhere in the mid again. But then the clock speed goes really high with 5011, and even the Cinebench score hits 41,119. I do have to mention that all of these benchmarks ran on stock, as I did on the past boards, so I can actually have something to compare with. Now, moving forward, Corona 1.3, 34 seconds to finish the render, which is 1 second less than all the other boards. And we have 14.9 million rays per second. Corona 10, 14.89 million rays per second, which is somewhere in the middle. Indigo benchmark, we're having for the bedroom 5.496 million samples per second, which is again mid. And Supercar is 12.646 million samples per second, again somewhere in the middle. Now, the Geekbench 6 single thread score is 3365, while the multi-thread score is 22,759. That's quite solid. Again, we're somewhere there close to the top, but still. But then, a surprise. Jetstream 2, 348,379, which goes to the top out of all motherboards paired up with 9950 X3D. PC Mark 10, we're having altogether score which is 12,219. I'm just going to go with main ones. Essentials are 12,383, productivity is 22,173, and digital content creation is 19,615. As you can see in this, all of these ones, comparing to the past boards, here everything is a bit mixed up. In some scenarios, it goes very low, but in other scenarios, it goes pretty high. So you can expect, like in spreadsheets, it goes really, really high compared to the past boards. And then you have for some other scenarios where it goes by double score lower. So that's something that I simply don't understand in this scenario, because 3 to 4 boards that I used benchmarking this CPU went quite close, quite similar, and then this one goes everywhere. 3D Mark TimeSpy Extreme, we have 15,912 with the CPU score is 12,815. TimeSpy, the normal one, is 20,831 with the CPU at 16,423. All of these scores, when you take a look at the TimeSpy Extreme, TimeSpy Firestrike Ultra, Firestrike Extreme, and the normal Firestrike, they're all somewhere there. It's again somewhere in the middle comparing to the other boards that I tested. The ASSD, that's the only difference. So what you can see here, I would say the read-write speeds are checked right where they should be. But in AutoDisk Benchmark and Crystal Disk Mark, you can see that the Kingston Fury G5 actually goes really high with the scores, almost in Crystal Disk Mark reaching 15,000 megabytes per second, which is actually insane. So what I would say is it has a nice VRM design, without a doubt. In general, design of the board is just simply brilliant, and the passive heatsink for cooling the VRMs is also outstanding. The whole visual aspect of the board is simply there. I mean, if you're really aiming for a white motherboard, this might just be the trick. And if you're having a white pure GPU from Sapphire, then you have a perfect pair going on. And moving on with, well, when you take the consideration of the price per performance ratio, and when it's constantly in the middle comparing to the other boards, then that's also outstanding, because you have something that you can actually see it really is worth the money. But then there are some things that I'm quite missing. So we have fewer PWM headers. Some boards in the X series have, I think, maybe 2 or 3 even more than this board. Oh, you have the standard CPU fan header, you have the AAO header, you have a couple of chassis fan PWM headers, but I'm still missing those 2-3 fan headers that are usually at the bottom, grouped together, and that's it. You have the standard 2 USB 2.0 at the bottom, and that's not a problem. At the beginning of the building process of this build, I did skip one ARGB header, which I missed. I don't know how. You have 1 at the top and 2 at the bottom, so that's okay. And the final thing is, I wouldn't say the PCIe locking mechanism as a negative, but this is where they try to save a bit on the price. And definitely the quick releases on the passive heatsinks for the M.2 slots is definitely something that I would really actually prefer. But at least you don't have those screws that you need to tap the SSDs when you're connecting them to the motherboard. So you don't have any screws, you just have that simple locking mechanism, which is actually quite okay. So you have 2 screws per M.2 SSD, 3 M.2 SSDs compared to other boards which have 4 or 5. It's somewhere there, I would say. Okay. And finally, of course, it's all up to you to decide if this is a deal breaker. When I mentioned the screws on the M.2 slots, only 3 M.2 slots, fewer PWM headers, but still you have enough adjustable RGB headers, all the connections are properly placed, and you have insane amount, well, I would say like 7 USB ports at the back, which one is USB 4 Type-C, so that's good. Actually something to consider. You have the X board, you have all the performance, you have a nice VRM design, but then some minor details which are usually in the, well, not anymore in the premium segment, aren't here. But still, the visual aspect should fix all of those problems, right? Tell me what you think about this board in the comments, because I'm quite curious. I think I find it quite nice in general when you take the whole board. Well, you take the board into a whole and circle it around with the price, performance, and the visual aspect, without a doubt. So I'm going to give it a PC Crazy approved badge because, well, I don't have to explain. I already did everything of that. So guys, if you're new to the channel and you haven't checked out my past videos, don't forget to do that. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell for future content coming quite shortly. Thanks for sticking by. See you next time. Bye.